Gressel. Jesse Martinez! 10 out of 10. A new MLS record for scoring in consecutive games.
Want to be on the cutting edge here on Tri-City Sports Now with me, Marky Billson. 1420 WEMB Sports Radio or jetbroadcasting.live, or of course our Facebook page, 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. You can watch it whenever you want to, the show. Makes it a lot easier when I slug it on time, but no, nevertheless, you can go through. Here we go. That was Jesse Martinez, and I realize soccer is gaining popularity. And so, therefore, I want to be able to give credit when credit is due. Atlanta United FC took a 1-0 lead over NYCFC with that Jesse Martinez goal. You heard it, courtesy ESPN. 10 goals in 10 games, that's a new MLS record. Who had it? Jesse Martinez. Atlanta went on to win 2-1. It won't be long until we, I talk about the major sports, not until we will say MLS and talk about them as well. Meanwhile, the Tri-Cities with the Otters, and we're around here and it's, well, can't they play at the football stadium? I'm hearing some things, it's disturbing, some of the mindset that you hear around here. Older, I shouldn't say older, older. Sun is warm. That's an old mentality. Yeah, pretty good. But here's what I'm going with here. Yeah, older mentality. But it's a stupid mentality because it doesn't open your mind to things here. I've talked about I said, okay, new stadium for the Otters. And maybe you could bring in the Nashville's USL team. The Tri-Cities, because when they go MLS, what are they going to need with the USL? Why does that automatic, send that to Knoxville. Why not here? Why do we have to be subservient to Knoxville here in the Tri-Cities? Well, there's no place to put the stadium, true. So let's discuss building one. I don't want to put public money in there. Oh, you don't. But yet you have no problem with the renovations of Joe O'Brien Field and Elizabethton, and they took the money from athletic fields there as well as the police department to put that into the Twin Stadium. You have no problem with that. Well, I didn't know they did that. Yeah. Think about this. And then, how about this? Think of this. What about this idea now at Kingsport, building a new ballpark for them? Okay, sure. But I don't think that money's going to grow on trees. We're going to, by the way, talk to some of the city officials from Kingsport next week on this show. Talk a little bit about a proposed stadium downtown for baseball. Now, to tell you the truth, I'd be for it if they were going to say, we're going to do this to lure a AA team in. To just have the Kingsport Mets, hey, build a stadium for a team that'll return an email message. That's the way I go with that. Just keeping things small, that's for the birds. Keeping things small. There was tragedy over the weekend for the Pittsburgh Steelers. In what's now being called natural causes, their 62-year-old wide receivers coach, Darryl Drake, passed away. Drake had been a long-time football coach, both the NFL. He actually started this year coaching the Steelers wide receivers. They had a wide receivers coach by the name of Richard Mann, but he was 72, so they brought in this season Drake, and passed away. Now the question, though, goes, and I find this interesting, who will coach the Steelers receivers? Maybe a bit callous. The man is not, you got to, I say nothing, no, it's not an unsympathetic view for Drake, but, it's a legitimate question. And here's the thing. The Steelers do have one coach on staff who's already served as a wide receivers coach. That would be Randy Fishner. But he's already the offensive coordinator and the quarterback's coach. That's a lot to put on his plate. Meanwhile, Tom Bradley, people talking about him maybe being that, he was coaching the defensive backs, but years ago at Penn State he coached wide receivers. Terrell Austin, longtime assistant coach in the NFL, once has been talked about as a NFL coaching candidate. He was brought in, and he's a former defensive back, so you start thinking, okay, Austin to the defensive backs, Bradley to the receivers. Now, I mention that because I mentioned Tom Bradley, who, if you didn't know, replaced Joe Paterno as the head coach at Penn State when the Sandusky issue was coming up. He was the interim coach. He was not going to be long for the job. He, for obvious reasons, Penn State brought in Bill O'Brien, now the Houston Texans coach, to replace Bradley. Bradley spent about a year as a really bad sportscaster. I listened to him. Really bad sportscaster around in Pittsburgh. And then he coached, I believe, as an assistant at West Virginia, and then UCLA before landing with the Steelers. Now think about that. West Virginia, Pittsburgh Steelers, UCLA, who knows what they're doing, but the Jim Mora era, and I never thought much of him as a coach. I just want to say this here because it looks at the Sandusky scandal. Remember here in Tennessee, and we can discuss if this was the real reason why the fans didn't want Dan Schiano or not, or Greg Schiano, but yeah, what was said? What was the one thing where we can't bring in Schiano to be the Vols coach? No way, no how. That's not going to work. The reason why? Because of the Sandusky scandal. He might have known. It's hard to believe that Bradley didn't know.